Welcome to the Launch Talk. In this talk, I'm going to present some of the ideas behind my design approach. In watching it, I hope you feel more connected with your inner designer. Here it goes. It would be easy for us to dismiss home as a first world problem. And the truth is that home for us is not about shelter. It's not about protection from the elements in our modern day society. It's about creating a space that serves us, that supports us, that urges us into our next phase of growth. We are certainly searching for something beyond the external. We are looking to understand the world, to connect with the world, to have something that is deeper than survival. It's not gratitude to devalue ourselves. It's gratitude to realize where we are, what we have, the struggles we have, and dive into that. And from that place of gratitude, we can then take action that can be a positive influence in the world. Homes are places that we come back, we retreat, we nourish ourselves, we rest, and then we spring back into the world. They're incredibly powerful spaces for us. And I believe that taking care of our homes is a tangible way that we can make an investment in ourselves and care about ourselves. So I'm saying that it's okay to value your first world problem of your home. All right, so what do we call this process of retreat and then taking care of ourselves and then taking action in the world? That is growth. And homes have incredible potential to spur us on towards growth. Sometimes we hear people say, he's 18 years old, he should have known better than that. Or she's 40 years old, she should already know that. But why doesn't she? And we think of maturity as if it is a linear scale of immature to a little bit mature to super mature or even wise. But the truth about maturity is that we don't progress along a linear scale. And we can't label where someone is along that scale at any moment in time. Instead, we mature in different ways at different times. And it's a different path for everybody. In my own life, I, in middle school and high school, was on the track to be the CEO of my schools. I was working in student organizations. It was the National Junior Honor Society at Daniels. It was student council at Enloe High School. And I was on it. I was leading meetings. I was taking initiative. And I was not doing what my friends around me were doing, which was figuring out this whole romantic world and taking their foot, dipping it in the waters, and seeing, what is this all about? They were writing notes, and they were figuring out this whole interconnected world of romance while I was on CEO track. And then, at the age of 26, after much time had passed, I was standing in that doorway right there. I had just given a tour of my house to a good friend of mine who happens to be tall and dark and handsome and male. And after showing him the master suite, he turned to me and jokingly said, "So, is this our love nest?" And I laughed it off, but something inside of me melted. And all of these years of figuring out who I was and who I was attracted to and all that came into focus very clearly in that moment. So at 26, I started to dip my foot in the water of my own romantic maturity, which was awkward in many ways. And someone who was dealing with me in that respect may have thought I was the maturity of a 12-year-old. Although meanwhile, people who were dealing with me in business thought I was maybe progressed beyond my years. And so all that to say, we do all mature at different ways in different times. And being okay with where we are and where our children are, where our partner is, can help us create an environment that can support our growth. And if we're busy reflecting what we thought we should be, or who we think our partner should be, or what a house should look like when someone comes in, then we're not going to be able to realize our fullest potential. All right, so it's okay to value our homes, and in so value ourselves. And it's good to grow with our homes. And so what do you do with things that you care about, you value, and you want to work with? You invest in them, right? And homes are the largest investment that most of us make. The monthly mortgage payment or rent payment is high compared to our other costs for many of us. And it's easy to think about homes in terms of dollars and cents. We're raised, told the value of a dollar. The dollar is valuable, is what we're told. And sometimes we're so focused on the value of a dollar that we miss out on opportunities to invest in our home in other ways, whether that is energetically or socially or spiritually or with our time and energy. Those are investments we can make in our home, and investments that I think could even pay larger dividends than the payment in resale because of appreciation or improvements. We do a lot of preparation for a financial investment, right? If we're going to get a loan to buy a house, we go see a lender, and we have lots of financial documents. We have to get all of our money in our bank accounts in a way that doesn't look suspicious to anybody. And yet, we're also making a spiritual investment. We're taking a lot of time in buying a house, and yet, oftentimes, we're focused on all the financial preparation, and we're not focused on how the house is going to feel and how the house could suit our lives, and asking those difficult questions that are more spiritual or social or energetic up front while we're focused on the money. When I talk to clients and I talk to them about what they want to do with their house, they go to finishes. They want to know what it's going to look like. That's the easiest thing to go to. What the color's going to be, whether we're going to do hardwoods or tile, what the window style is going to be, how it fits in with the neighborhood. It's all about appearance, 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 which is a great place to be in the end. But if we lock ourselves into what our house is going to look like before we've looked at how our house is going to function, or even on a deeper level, how our house is going to feel, then we are over-constraining the situation. And in so doing, we could be blocking ourselves from reaching the fullest potential in our house. And so oftentimes, I'll ask clients questions about function. So appearance is where they start. And then I ask them questions about function. Because think about a kitchen. In a kitchen, you are moving a lot of material, a lot of foods. They have to be certain temperatures. They have to be stored in a certain way. There's storage. There are all these different tools. We're kind of breaking this down to a factory now. And it's difficult to imagine before we're in a kitchen where we're going to want everything. So that's one level of digging deeper. And that can be a little bit of a challenge for people. It's a challenge for me. But it's kind of like doing the paperwork for that financial investment. And then if I start asking them questions about how they want to feel in their house, then that really, I can get some resistance there. Because then you have to face something that's deeper, something you may not have thought about, something that you didn't watch on a home design program, or you didn't see in a magazine. It's about you all of a sudden. And so those are the three levels. There's appearance. These are the three levels as I see them. All this is as I see it. This is not meant to be cut into stone. It's based on my experience. So you have appearance, and then you have function, and you have feeling. Right, so I'll ask a client when we're walking through the house, how do you feel in this room, in their current house? And they'll be like, well, I feel frustrated because I don't like my refrigerator. I'm like, no, no, no. Let's not go to the items in the room. How do you feel when you walk in the room? Pure feeling. And then, how do you want to feel in this room? And that is difficult. And it's something that oftentimes needs to happen not when I'm in the room, especially if they've just met me. And then as we build trust, of course, over time, we get into more of these kinds of conversations, which is fun. But getting down to that feeling level and then working from feeling to function and then working from function to appearance is the way that we can really make our house ring true and have an authentic feel. In a spec home construction situation, people are building a home that's going to appeal to the widest part of the market they can. And that's also what happens when you go to a furniture store on Glenwood Avenue that already has a whole living room set up. And you just buy the living room set up and you put it in your house. And yes, both of those things will work fine for most people. And they'll work fine. And if you want your house to work fine, then you don't need to dig deeper. You can get a spec home or a generally constructed home, and you can buy a set from a furniture store on Glenwood, and it'll all be fine. But if you want a home that is exceptional and that really goes with your heartbeat and pulls the growth of the people who live there and the people who visit, then it's important on the front end to dig a little bit deeper and really think about how you want to feel and think about how those feelings translate to the activities and then how those activities translate to the look. I have something to tell you about my own story here. Oh yeah, in my own house. Here we are. I started the construction of this house years and years ago. Took a little turn there in the middle that I didn't expect, but we're there almost. And the house is now livable and entertainable, which is good. When I started building this house, I did put a lot of thought into it. I didn't have as much experience in designing homes 8 years ago when I was working on the design as I do now. But I put a lot of thought into it because I had 8 years to think about it. And here are some of the concepts that I dug into and thought about before I started building this house, which is, of course, very different than what you might see in a spec house. So I wanted the front of the house to respect the surrounding neighborhood and feel somewhat like the other homes while doing its own thing at the same time. So you see this is a reverse gable that matches the other roof shapes that are in the neighborhood. I wanted the back of the house to have a lot of personality and be super fun. So this is a reverse shed roof line that really reaches up toward the sky. Something that on the front of the house would have felt very different, almost jarring from the neighborhood, which could have been fine if that was my intent. That was not my intent. I wanted to reach to the neighborhood with this addition on the front and the large front porch. And then I wanted to open to a backyard that was more secluded and quiet. I also wanted my living room, which actually is this area. Many of you wouldn't know that. So we're living room here, dining room here. Y'all are in the master bedroom. Hey! So my living room was intentionally adaptable. There are multiple configurations for these two sofas, which are finally on wheels. They can be in an L-shaped seating group, or they can face each other for a party. They can both turn toward the drop-down screen for a client presentation or a movie night while we fly through a house in 3D. The living room was intentionally adaptable. I didn't want to feel like I was stuck with any furniture arrangement. I wasn't quite to the place I was thinking a lot about how I wanted to feel in the room, but I knew I didn't want to be locked down. So I guess I wanted to feel free. And then what are some other concepts in the house? I wanted it to be free from preconceived notions. There are also hookups there for swings. And the swings are living on the wall over there. So I have playground swings in my house, which is really fun when a kid comes over or when I'm here. I wanted my house to be free of preconceived notions. And I wanted when someone walked in the house to feel a sense of openness toward possibilities and not feel like there was a repetition of what they expected. I knew that I was going to live in this house and run my business out of this house. So I wanted it to be in a space that people could come into and we could meet, and it could feel professional and interesting, and then be able to morph later that day into my house that felt warm and contained. I wanted to have light throughout the house, so there are windows surrounding, but I wanted privacy from my neighbors who are rather close, so I have high windows on the sides of the house. There were a lot of thoughts that went into it, and now it would be more difficult to take a step back and think as much as I thought about this house, but I would still do it. Now we get to talk about the people. A lot of times we design our houses not for the people that live there, but for the people that visit once or twice a year. And I want to have this when someone walks in my house, and they just go, ah. And the truth of the matter is they walk in there like, ooh, I don't have that. I wish I had that. They have it, I don't. It's important to consider entertaining and all that. I'm not dismissing beautiful entryways by any means. I love them. But I am a huge proponent for thinking about the people in the house and how they're going to respond. Compromise. This is an interesting one. So often I'll meet with a couple and I'll ask them to respond to photographs. And they, from the get-go, start chiming in what they collectively as a couple want. And that inevitably is not the same in each of their minds. And so it's, well, we want to have a fireplace that's a focal point. And the other's like, well, we kind of want it to be a focal point, but this and that. And so we go into all these different places of compromise from the get-go. And I did an interesting exercise the other day. I asked one of my youngest couple clients, they live in Norfolk, I said, I'd like you to react to these photos I'm sending you, but I want you to react individually and not hinge your answers on the other person's response whatsoever. And they did that. They wrote me back. And it really struck me when I read their words. Because, for example, one of them would say, I like this chair that we own. I think it's comfortable, and I want the dog to be able to sit in my lap in it. And then it was, but my partner doesn't really like the chair, thinks that it's out of style, and makes our home look like it's from a different era. And the fact that they were able to respond to all of my questions and all the photographs from both of their voices and not compromise from the beginning allowed me to get inside their brains and figure out pieces that could be a solution for both of their tastes. And so letting go of compromise and instead looking to be authentic about what you want and what your partner wants can be a way to meld two styles together instead of mixing them. And a lot of times, one partner is way more into this house project than the other partner and has done lots of advanced thinking, and when I meet with them, they already have it all figured out. And the idea of going back and not only asking the partner what he or she wants it to look like or function like, but asking what that partner wants it to feel like when so much work has already been done on this side can feel overwhelming. It can be like, no, I don't even want to bother asking their opinion because then we have to undo all of my ideas and thoughts, and it's a lot. So when you're doing the work ahead of time and thinking through what home might look like, it's good to pull in the partner as soon as possible so that there's not a clash there or a feeling like someone has to let go of their dream thoughts, which the partner had no idea existed. It's important to consider the personalities of the people in the home. And despite the different personality indicators out there are infinitely many personalities in this world, not just 4 letters or 3 numbers or are you this or that. It's multifaceted. And our society, in many ways, rewards extroverts. We get ahead by being extroverted. We get ahead by reaching our hand out and being the first person to say hello. We get ahead by taking on a public speaking engagement, maybe, whatever it may be. And what I find oftentimes is that people who have been successful by taking on an extroverted role in the world sometimes feel shame in their own homes about wanting some reprieve, wanting some solitude, not wanting to be fully exposed during every part of their preparation of a meal or during every part of their day. And so there is a lot to be said for embracing what parts of ourselves may naturally be extroverted, what parts may naturally be introverted, and taking those into consideration in our homes. There are ways that we can, of course, construct homes so that they can embrace both sides, and that's what we're getting at. Okay, and style. When I meet with people, a lot of times they say, Mitch, I don't know where to start because I don't know what my style is. What is my style? I don't know my style. And it's like they are reaching for a word or a phrase that will help them know what their style is. And styles are labels we've given to textures, colors, shapes, concepts that they've been grouped together for whatever reason, oftentimes historical. It does us no good to label ourselves with a preconceived notion of a style. Now, if you like everything that's French country and that all appeals to you, great. You can walk into a store and easily explain your style. But the truth of the matter is that what all of us are drawn to tends to be as diverse as our personalities. And so we might like shapes that are more concave or more convex. We might like textures that are softer or textures that are more harsh or prickly. Not typically, but outside you might want something prickly and textural. And so by diving into the idea of style and letting go of preconceived notions, we can kind of embrace a more unique take on what a house might look like. Interesting with people and houses is that at some point there's also a relationship between a person, a human, and the house itself. Recently I was designing a lake house on Lake Gaston, and I was working with the husband and wife. And this lake house is on a piece of property that is a rectangle that's parallel to the lake in front of it. Behind it there's a river, so there's water on both sides. And the shoreline is rather straight. And there's a beautiful view where the lake goes off to the right. So it's this rectangular piece of property with a beautiful view to the right. And the husband said, well, can't we just tweak the house a little bit toward that view? And nothing inside of me felt like tweaking the house toward that view was right. And this is what I do as a designer. I have to come up with reasons that explain these feelings I have kind of innately. And so I was like, okay, how do we address this situation, which is intuitive to me, but needs to be explained to this husband? And I said, well, think about it this way. When you walk into the lake house, yes, we want to be able to see water. It's a lake house. You've been intentional about getting in the car and coming up here, and you want to see water as soon as you come in. But if you saw the ideal view of the lake as soon as you came into the house, it's kind of like when you go on a first date and you see everything that person has to offer at once. There's no intrigue. It's just download, download, download. Everything I have is here. But there could be a deeper relationship between that visitor or that inhabitant in the house if things get revealed as you walk through rooms. And there are some things that are held until you visited a space. And so as we're thinking about the people in our homes and their different personalities, it's also helpful to think about the home as having its own personality and one that could be revealed in time. All right, so our houses are a place where we have a lot of choice, which can be a daunting task. We get to completely decide, given an unlimited budget, we get to completely decide what it looks like, what the finishes are, if you're building a new house, where the walls are, and we get to control that environment. We don't get to control the world outside of our doors oftentimes, but we do get to control the environment in our house, and there are thousands of decisions we can make. Given this daunting situation, a lot of times we create obstacles in our minds to justify why we're here and why things are the way they are and why it's okay for us to stay where we are and not change things because, well, we couldn't do that. We can't move from our house, this house, because it was given to us by someone in their will and they passed away. We could never leave. Or we couldn't change the sofa configuration because that's what my designer 10 years ago said should be, and so that's what we're doing, and we can't change it. Everything else can change, but not that configuration. And there's this piece of art on the wall that I really don't like, but my husband's mom painted it, and it's staying right there. And we create these obstacles. We give ourselves these constraints in order to tell ourselves we can't change, or we can't mold or personalize, when those actual constraints and obstacles could be holding us back from creating a house that served our needs more. So I'm going to ask you right now to think about your own home and think about the ways that you feel stuck in your home, in your living environment. And I want you to entertain for a moment the idea of leaving it. I'm not asking you to leave your house. I'm just asking you in your brain to entertain the notion of leaving it. If you do that, what comes to mind? What obstacles come to mind? What makes you feel like, no, that could never happen? All right, now what about changing a room in your house? If you think about changing the office, we'll say changing the office, if there's an office, or a place that you study, or a place you read or relax. Changing that room, what obstacles come to mind? Or letting go of that room? Or what if you had to make that room suddenly live-in quarters for a grandparent? What pulls up inside you that's difficult? And then, once you do that, and you can do this in your own time, think about overcoming all of those obstacles. Not because you need to overcome them, not because you need to move, but what is a solution that could overcome all those obstacles? It's a mental practice of letting go of what you have and being aware of the obstacles that are inherent in your brain. And then, after you've done that, and you've kind of weighed the costs, then make a decision about what you're going to do. Most of you will probably stay in your houses, and that's fine, and that's good. Most of you will probably keep the office. But in so doing, you'll then be choosing those rooms, and you'll be choosing your location, and you won't be a victim to these constraints that you have boiled up in your head. Instead, you'll be creating a space that really meets your needs and goes below the surface. We are going to do a more interesting little exercise at this point in time. Don't be scared by the word meditation, but it's going to be kind of like that. I want you to close your eyes. I want you to inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. All right, keep breathing deeply. You're going to wake up in your bed feeling wonderfully rested and completely comfortable. Think about how you feel. You're coming out of sleep naturally. Nothing is blaring, making you wake up. Maybe it's that you hear people downstairs talking and you're coming out of sleep listening to that. Maybe you're alone and your body is fully rested and you're coming out of sleep. What is the temperature like in the room? What do you feel touching your skin? What does it sound like? You feel completely free. Nothing is judging you. You're judging nothing. There's no evaluation of any kind. You're not even evaluating yourself. You're simply being and feeling fully alive in your space. All right, you step out of bed and you go grab anything you like. It may be coffee, it may be a book, maybe water, and you walk into the absolutely ideal environment. A place that you feel comfortable and centered and at peace. And you take in your surroundings, take in your feelings. What do you feel? Is it excitement? Is it reprieve? Take a deep breath in, take a deep breath out. What do you smell in that room? What do you hear? Who's around you in this space? Are people coming in and out? Is it busy around you? Is it completely quiet? Who's there? What is the light like? Is there light streaming in through a window? Is it complete darkness? Is it in the middle of a room with no windows where there's only dim light? And what textures do you see and feel? Are the cushions around you soft? Are you sitting on a bench that is firm? Are you on the floor? Take a deep breath in and take in your surrounding one more time. Are you noticing anything different that you didn't see before? Are you feeling anything more deeply than you felt it before? Take a deep breath in and take a deep breath out and open your eyes. So there's something very powerful that you just created in your minds, something that I think you could bring into your house in one way or another. And it's easy when you have an experience like that to go home and say, we need a new house because I want to feel this way. Or it'd be easy to go and say, we're completely changing the kitchen. Because I was in the kitchen and I had my mug of coffee and I took it right off the hook that was sitting on the wall and it was easy and we were redoing the kitchen. But instead of going to the extreme, think about a single spot in your house where you could make it feel more like you just felt. And don't let the dollar enter in yet. Think of a spot in your home that you can make yours to share with whomever you choose. And if you can do that and unlock the potential of that one piece, you just may think differently about the place you call home and even yourself. I hope you enjoyed the launch talk. If you'd like to watch the Q&A that happened after the talk, that link is below. It was magical.